Welcome to the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson, Rick Avalos, and their special guest. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hi, Jeff here with the Image Critique Show. Just want to take this moment. First of all, thank you for tuning into our fun project that Rick Avalos and I have started with the Image Critique Show. Hopefully we can help. I want to just tell you a little bit about last week's episode. We had a little glitch in the recording portion. The video kind of crapped out on us. So we lost, honestly, the first 40 minutes of the show. Rob was so gracious to come back, and we've re-recorded the interview that we did with him. Rick is going to be involved in this part of the show. We went into, I think there's about 6 or 7 images that didn't record. So we wanted to make sure those of you who had submitted those images had a chance to hear some good feedback. So, but I don't want you to panic, because halfway through this show, Rick is going to just disappear, and then Cliff will appear as he was on the show last week. Anyways, enjoy it. Let us know how we can help. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much. Well, we're live, everybody. The Image Critique Show. Thanks for tuning in, and glad you're here. This is episode number 7. Mr. Rick Avalos, how you doing?
Doing great, Jeffy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. This is
welcome, everyone. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Rick's going to introduce our guest this evening, and we'll talk to him in just a moment. We got a few images to talk about. Thanks for entering and allowing us to help you out with critiques and such. And remember, this is just a opportunity to help you with your imagery. To not necessarily, we certainly aren't going to ridicule you, but it's not going to be all sweets, nothings, and flowers. We'll be honest with you in a nice way. Rick's laughing at me like he knows. Anything else you want to add to that, Rick, as far as helping folks?
Yeah, just like we've talked about in the past, all of these comments that all of us make are really to be helpful. We certainly don't want to be critical in a negative way, but rather to edify your work and hopefully get your work up to the next level. And I know I can only speak for myself, but anytime we have these image critique shows, I think I learn probably more than I impart, and that's what's really cool about the whole program.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. That's what's fun for us, because I look forward to hearing whoever our guest is that month, what they have to add to it, and then just the conversation back and forth with the makers. And also keep in mind, while this program is kind of based on PPC in Colorado and PPA image competitions, it's not necessarily that hard, fast rule. We're going to talk more about composition. We'll talk about borders and not things like that are part of entering images in competitions. So hey, a quick announcement. We do have our Professional Photographers of Colorado State, the conference and the image competition coming up. This year, for the first year, we've pulled the competition away from the conference. Is the first part of November, 3 days of education, speakers, and camaraderie. Make sure you make that. It's on the ppcolorado.com site. But we've taken our image competition, since it's all online, and we've moved it ahead a couple of weeks to October 15th. We do have a location. That information is on the ppcolorado.com site. So we are going to gather and have our Club 79. We'll be running the images on this big screen, but everybody plan on coming. The camaraderie, we're going to just kind of really have just a nice party. But enter your images. We've got all kinds of great awards and trophies for the state competition, like we normally do. And that'll be awarded at the banquet, our Christmas holiday party. That will be the second weekend, or maybe it's the first week in December. I forget. It's all on the ppcolorado.com calendar. There's the rules, the guidelines, the categories that you can enter in are all on the PP Colorado site. There's a competition link, and the competition entry opens on the 1st of September coming up here. It'll be on the website very shortly, but you can enter. It'll take you right to the printcompetition.com site, and you can enter that way. What else we need to add to that, Rick, for competition? Anything else?
Well, really just to consider making sure that you're there. We've been through this last couple or 3 or 4 years of drama, and hopefully we feel that we're getting through that. it's an opportunity to everyone to get back and into the mainstream of what's going on. And just as you mentioned, the camaraderie, and there's so much that you can learn. Obviously, we hear this all the time. I can get information online, and you certainly can. But man, how does that compare to actually being in the room with your colleague,
absolutely,
and rubbing elbows? And and we've often heard it said too that how much more a person seems to learn, excuse me, in the halls or having a cup of coffee with somebody as you do with the programming.
yeah.
So I just really encourage everyone to take advantage of the opportunity to come together and, let's build this thing up like we used to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. And our comrade Cliff Lawson is going to be our host that day. Rick and Megan Anderson and I are going to be running the controls from our control center in Burbank, California. No, not really. We're going to be running the controls probably in another room at the same event center. So we'll be there, but it's a party. It's fun. Also, enter images, print out just a copy sheet or a computer paper, doesn't have to be anything fancy, of each of your images, and bring them to the competition. We're going to hang them on the wall, and they're going to put them in the different scoring things. Just kind of talk about it. Cliff will have some fun with that, with some other education. So, okay, enough of that. Should we move on? Rick, why don't you introduce our wonderful guest?
Absolutely. This is really a pleasure for me to introduce Rob. He's a dear friend of both Jeff and mine, but that isn't the only reason he's here. I mean, he's got qualifications up and down the wall. But before we get a little bit too much further into this, Rob, I understand that your business has quite a lengthy history.
My studio. Well, yeah, we've been in business here for 37 years.
Nice.
And I opened, it's Valley Studios, the name of my business. And I opened it at the ripe old age of 22. So
well, and and I understand too that you were a pup when you got into photography, something like around 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah. Yearbook photographer at 15.
Wow.
Had a high school that had photography classes, which was great. And so I got right in and got right into college and got right out of college and started my program.
Yeah. So, but I understand, you're 37 years plus. Did you get into a business that you're continuing from a previous owner or something like that? Because I understood that you were in like 75 years or something like that.
Well, no, my family has a history of business ownership here in Spokane Valley. My grandfather and father owned a commercial creamery dairy operation here in Spokane, which is still pretty famous, even though it's been closed for over a decade. But so I had a long family history of small business ownership.
I get you.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Well, and you graced the PPVA membership also as a past president. Was that what, 2018?
2018, yeah. Yep, that's correct.
Nice.
Yeah, that was quite an experience and something I'll never forget. And it was a true honor to serve the membership for almost a decade as a member of the board of directors, and then going through chairs as an officer and getting to travel around the country. And meet all the affiliates, meet people in the affiliates in person. And I got to make a few international trips. So it was really an extraordinary experience and something I'll cherish forever.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Thanks for serving for us. That was very cool of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's interesting that I find, and this is again, one of those things that you find out about people when you tend to rub elbows other than, the Zoom type thing. But so many of our colleagues, in addition to being so well gifted as photographers, have other interests or talents. And one of yours is scouting, isn't it?
Well, it has been, yeah. My son about 3 years ago got his Eagle Scout Award, and then the following year he aged out of scouting. So I'm not currently active as a scouting leader, anymore. But yeah, again, it's a family thing with me too. My grandfather, my father, my older brother, and I are both Eagle Scouts. And when my son became of age, we joined Cub Scouts, and I immediately, in fact, I was the Cub master of his Cub Scout pack when I got elected to the PPA board of directors.
How'd you handle that one? That
So
was
I had all kinds of balls in the
All
air,
of it.
so to speak, and then I did do a couple years as Scoutmaster too. Once he moved up to the Boy Scout troop, while I was on the board, I did a couple of years as Scoutmaster as well. So there
Good.
was some real busy years there for
Yeah.
a bit.
Did any chance you had a generational photograph of you Eagles?
Well, yeah, there we got a photograph of my dad got an award about a year before he passed away. And Cameron was in Cub Scouts at that point, my son. And my dad received a 60 years in scouting award from our
Wow.
inland Northwest Council. And there was a big banquet in there, and the award was given at this banquet. And we did get a photo of the four of us together that night, which was
Good for you.
cool. Yeah.
Good for you.
Very cool.
Well, again, this is the benefit of what we're doing here. Our guests are so well-rounded and deep in their interests. And I mean, we could visit with Rob all night and still not scratch the surface. In consideration for Rob's time and our participants, excuse me, maybe we should get the ball rolling.
Sure, I suppose people really came to see. They came to see Rick, not us, Rob. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know about
Can I just share with the viewers that Rick is a sensei to me, because Rick co-taught my judging class, my PPA judging class that I took way back in 2016. And so I consider it an honor to participate in this along with Rick and Jeff as well, and
Cool.
consider both of you guys dear friends as well.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
Fun class.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we're honored to have you here and to get your feedback on some of our images. We've got quite a few for us to look at this evening. So let's go ahead and jump right in. One thing I wanted to throw at everybody real quick, our listeners, our vast audience of photographers, is we will have one more show on September 28th, right before the Colorado photography image competition, which is the 15th. So you'll have time to submit images to our next show to get some feedback, and still have plenty of time to submit them to the Colorado State Association for the competition. So keep that in mind as another practice session, so to speak, for you in there, and we'll be happy to help you with that. Okay, let's move along. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to steal a screen from you guys here, and I'm going to bring up our images. And the first one this evening is called Art Deco. Rob, I'm going to let you jump right in and give us your thoughts on this one.
Okay, I'm going to get my
Oh, you get your little pen
my
out.
drawing tool out here in case I want to notate something for the maker. Well, I enjoy this image. I love the black and white quality of it. I think the presentation is clean. I think the border might be a little narrow, but otherwise I think it's a good, clean presentation for a black and white image. And I love the detail and the tonality of the black and white. But as I get into the building itself and I come up through the tower, the spire on the tower just takes me right out the top of the frame, because I feel as if the image is cropped a little bit too tightly for a competition. So yeah, this area right here is just taking me right up and out.
Would you suggest maybe to the maker to maybe expand that canvas now, since that's something that can be done to give us a little more space there from
Yeah, if they could, maybe add some sky up there a little bit or something, just give it a little bit of room to breathe, so we can enjoy that beautiful spire on the top of the building. Part of it is the tonality of the background right behind it, and so it kind of gets lost in that, and so I think that's important to have that extra space.
Yeah, no, I'd make it a little more comfortable. It's kind of, it has a tension about it, doesn't it? Because it hits right there.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Rick?
Yeah, exactly. When I saw the composition of the image, I really appreciated it, and I liked, the long, narrow type of a presentation. But I really would totally agree that if we had more space on the top of it, and maybe even, adding a little bit more impact to the image by scooting in just a little bit. I mean, I don't think it would hurt if we scooted in from the right and the left just to add a little more drama to the impact of the image. But I like to comment too about the mat. As I'm seeing it, it's not stark white, which is good. Otherwise we'd really be blown out of the image visually, left and right, top and bottom. But I think the tonal value of the mat was handled really quite well.
Yeah, good call on that, cropping in on the sides. I hadn't thought of that before, but when you draw those lines there, that definitely would make it a little more space, maybe 10-15% of the image more sky, and then a little narrower. That would make it real impactful. Beautiful black and white tones throughout. I would like to see just a little bit more. I mean, there's some good highlights right up here on the face of the sun side of the tower there. Love to see just a little bit more, and I'm being real picky, but that's the 1 or 2 points that bring it up into each of the next categories. Minor thing, but maybe just a little bit. It seems, because this is a larger area here, it seems a little flat, whereas over here it's a little, so maybe in these areas just a little bit more brightness. I mean, I know it sounds like we're being real picky, but when we start talking competition, and we're talking, especially, we're still doing points at the state level, which allows us to choose awards and things. Each one of those little things with a little more impact certainly adds a point or two to the scene. And a good comment about the mat, because a stark white mat would have, I think, detracted from the overall presentation. So it's white, light gray, very strong. I think a black mat would have been maybe not the best choice. It would have been too stark. A mat in the same color as the sky could have worked too. So that's the option you have, or should I say, that's the issue that we have every time you enter something with a mat. There's going to be one judge that have a different idea. So just be prepared for that one.
Right.
So very cool, guys. All right, let me move along with the next one here. Clear that all. So next we have cascading light. Rob, what are your thoughts?
Cascading light. Well, first of all, I have a feeling of I don't know if vertigo is the right word, but I get off kilter when I look at this image right away, and I don't know if it's the cropping. I think it might be. Obviously, we have a landscape here that's at an angle to the photographer. And so we've got a kind of this horizon line that's conflicting with the bottom of our frame. And so, and it also seems like maybe there's some perspective there where there's a fall off, like the left side of the scene's going away from us. But my initial impact is immediately I start looking at all that instead of just enjoying the subject. So my first thought would be that maybe some cropping on this image could help. Maybe we could come in here, take off some of this bottom, maybe even come down this side a little bit and get in here more and enjoy the waterfall, so that I don't think that we need this over on the left. There's also an eye trap over here with the hot spot on the rocks. And so the other area that's an area of concern that jumped right out of me is this area here in the waterfall that's pretty hot as well, which kind of wants to suck my eye up out the top of the image as well. So I think there's a lot of good things going on in the image, but it's getting lost in the way it's cropped and those real overly bright areas.
Rick, I'm gonna let you say something about it, and then I'll pull it into Photoshop and we'll crop it and take a look at it.
Okay. Same sentiments. I was just taken a little bit with the horizon being at an angle to me. And I mean, it's totally natural, I'm sure, but maybe we could work with that. I agree with the crop. I'd like to maybe consider a square crop of the image. And if the file would allow, if it's on the file, maybe seeing a little bit more of the fall and, its source, if you will, because, the cropping here, for me, it just, unfortunately, doesn't tell the story, or it interrupts the story, if that makes any sense at all.
Let me do this. I'm going to take us into
But I think there's potential there.
Photoshop on the crop. Well, one of the things that could be, my experience in shooting waterfalls, sometimes you get the top of the falls, but yet it's just blank sky or bright sky up there, and it's or silhouettes of trees. So it ends up being even more of an eye catch. So that may be why they cut it the way they did. But let's explore with some of the cropping that you guys are suggesting. To start with the horizontal, maybe coming like through here, and I think coming up, I kind of like this rock right here on the bottom right corner as kind of a pointer, if you will, to bring us into the scene. This guy right here. Let me go back to my little pen tool here. So this is kind of neat, brings us into the scene. I would eliminate this light trap. That's easy to do. Maybe could even bring up the crop a little more. Not a problem. But I like, now we have just a little bit of the green here to support it, a little bit of the shadow here to kind of give us that view in there. Yeah, I think this could be toned down. And look at to the maker, look at what's up here. And if there's a top of a fall you could do that's not going to be, like I said, too overpowering with the blank sky or silhouetted trees or things like that happen when you look up at the top of a waterfall. We also talked about the cropping, or not the cropping, but the whoops, let me get rid of this here. The tilt. And so if we kind of straighten out that line on the left there, this little straighter, the falls kind of look like they're kind of maybe leaning a little bit too much. So I mean, it's kind of a happy medium. Frankly, I don't mind too much as a little bit of a tip here, but maybe straightening it could be a little bit just to play it down a little, but also bringing in that left side like we did, guys. Don't you agree? We've cut into that angle quite a bit, so it's not as obvious.
Yeah. And it eliminated that light trap.
Yeah, maybe even how about come up like this? I like these rocks on the right being our anchor on the right, and then we've got
that made a big difference for me right there.
Yeah. Yeah, so makers, just some ideas there. Hopefully we didn't hurt you with all this, but that's part of the fun here for us, is is to have some fun, just to share some different ideas with you and your imagery. So maybe, and now as we bring in this crop on the bottom, I don't mind where the falls are cut at the top. Maybe just, if you can, bring that tone down just to get a little bit of, I know it's very subtle, but you can bring in some of the wispy lines that are in the almost more the mist, but there's still some drops falling, just bringing some little bit of texture, tiny bit in there. That might be kind of cool. So, all right, good job, guys. Let's move along. Next image is called Early Morning Walk on the Beach. Rick, you want to jump in real quick on this one?
I like the square presentation. I think the color harmony of the mat with the bird is handled really well. This is one of those times where the key line, detached is what I would call it, really supports the image. I guess my concern with it really getting somewhere higher in categories, the lighting is coming from the back of the bird, or from the side, I should say. And it's just, even though we've got dimension, it's just a little soft, or I don't know, milky, if I could use that term. But if we had a little stronger direction of light, I think to really pull the bird out from the background. Good choice of selective focus, for the dimensionality, but I just kind of feel that the lighting and the image, and maybe the bird, it might be just a little bit big in the presentation.
Rob, what do you think?
Oh yeah, pretty tight crop for me on this image. I do enjoy the presentation. I think that's fine. They've kept with the tonality of the image. But I'm having trouble staying on the bird because there's so many distractions in this photo. In addition to Rick's comments about the lighting, we actually have a depth of field issue with the bird. If you look at the right side of the feathers there towards the back, a very extremely shallow depth of field, which you can tell by the beach that it's standing on as well, that the depth of field is extremely shallow there. So I feel like at least the whole bird should be sharp. And then we've got a lot of natural vines and fibers and things here on the beach, and while that might be the natural environment for this bird, it's a competition image. It's serving as a distraction and pulling my eye away from the primary subject.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you guys said. I don't mind, again, personal preference. I don't mind the shallow depth of field, mostly because the eye, being the most important part of this here scene, is definitely sharp. The beak is sharp. Enough of the body, the legs are sharp, but I don't mind that it falls off softly. And I enjoy the background going soft like this, especially if you get closer in or even into macro. But yeah, all of the stuff on the beach is what's making it hard. Even just this out of focus with this area here, this dark corner. I'd like to be able to come into the scene and focus on the eye and enjoy the bird, and then wander around and come back to it. But there's so much going on. It's just very busy. And that's a hard decision to make because it is a pretty cool little shot. Color coordinated, good job with the mat, like we said. But you start getting into the competition area, and these are the things that we're talking about that are going to not let us image score high. That's what's hard. It's a matter of, well, you don't enter it. You could hang this in a gift shop and you'd probably sell the crap out of it. So, sell it as gift cards. People are going to love this cute little guy. But yeah, when you get into all of the extraneous stuff in here, it pulls the judge's eye away from what you want them to see. Picture the same. I love the little rolling hill here and behind the bird, and then it's a nice slant that goes uphill back here. If that was all white or gray, this would be really powerful. But unfortunately for the competition, as we mentioned, these things are going to hold it from probably even going into that merit category. So anything else to add, guys?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, I don't think so.
Good work. And if it will close, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Gulp. Rob, what do you think?
My initial reaction is a merit image.
Yeah.
I'd give this image a merit. It has good impact when it comes up. I love the storytelling. I love that I get right in there on the eye of the bird, and then I follow the beak right down to its prey there, which it is captured in its beak. Wonderful wildlife moment that's been captured here by the maker, the little framing in the top left corner. Good color harmony with the mat and the stroke. Although again, I think the mat's a little bit narrow. Can you tell that's a theme with me? I like to have a little more of a mat around the image if you're going to do a mat. And I think one thing that I do kind of see though, because it is a wildlife-ish photograph, and we want things. This leg is not sharp, and I think these tail feathers back here are a little bit soft as well. But that probably is something that could very possibly be corrected for competition using software on the image. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Oh, I think it's an absolutely superb capture. The little bit of wildlife that I've tried to do, it's very difficult. But to capture this bird with this fish in this position is really pretty cool. I mean, this is quite a gem of a capture. The composition is strong. I like the kind of over the shoulder, if you will, of the bird, still seeing the profile of the head and the fish. The placement of the bird, the little bit of yellow flowers, even the little bit of I mean, I like the lines that this. Oops, where's my tool here? Hold on, I thought I had it out. Not what we wanted. The yellow flowers. This line here is cool. Kind of complements the little curve of the water back there, and this little bit of branch. What a nice little touch. Good job there. Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, on the leg is just a little soft. The tail feathers. Locally, you could go in and use one of the softwares and sharpen those areas up just enough so they would look okay. I think you come off with that pretty good. But man, the color harmony, the whole presentation, outstanding. Ricky, what do you think?
Totally agree. The exposure was nailed on this one. I mean, we've got fidelity all through the image. You know, in the highlight areas, the shadow areas. You know, we were talking about composition. I think the placement of the bird in the presentation is perfect. And I don't know, you know, maybe you guys are seeing it a little differently than me, but I see a repeating composition because we have kind of the head, you know, and the beak in a bit of an arch, and then we have the foliage, the framing foliage kind of repeated, which I think is really an interesting and neat compositional strategy. You know, all of these things, it's a beautiful image. I would just maybe make recommendations, just the little things, you know, maybe just taking this out, toning it down, whatever, just the little highlight areas that tend to draw attention. And maybe even this diagonal shoot or straw or whatever it is, you know, just cleaning it up a little bit, just to give it a little bit more cleaner appeal, I guess is what I'm saying.
So you're saying just things that would attract the eye unnecessarily, get rid of those things. Like I see this little white spot I keep going to on the neck, minor thing, but those are another point here, another point here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even mind that the foreground here is soft. It's subtle enough that it works. It's not a big obvious out of focus kind of thing. So that was handled real well. So it allows us to let the bird be the center of it. Really, really good job to the maker on this one.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk real quick. Let me ask your guys' opinions or thoughts on mats, since that is such a big thing with PP Colorado and PPA competitions. Rob, talk to me what you think about color of mats, and then talk about key lines and placement and colors and things. Just some thoughts.
Well, you know, and I get what you're saying, and I see a lot of comments on some of the print competition social media sites and stuff too, and there's people that don't think you need it, and you know, why do we have to do it? And of course, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it, but it finishes your work. It's the finishing touch. It's the presentation of your image. And it's not to say that your image can't stand on its own, but you're entering it in competition. You're finishing it nice. It actually becomes a part of your overall piece that you're producing. And so as a juror, when I see that and I see it's been done well and it's been thought out and it ties to the subject and it's not distracting and it's complementary, and or maybe it's unique, you know, maybe they've found some unique way to do some presentation, it can really add a lot to my excitement for an image as a juror. And so I when it comes to strokes and things, you know, you want to keep the tone subtle. I try to pick up something from the image if I can and use it in my matte presentation. Either I'll just take Photoshop and sample a color right from the image, right, and then apply that to the stroke. And then maybe, or if I don't like it out there on the stroke as much as I do in the image, I'll just tweak it in the color wheel a little bit in the color picker in Photoshop and just try to, you know, work it that way. There's so many techniques, of course, you know, when you talk about black and white images, you want to be way more neutral with the presentation. But I do like a matte that has a little bit more space to it so that the image doesn't feel like the image is pushing the boundary of the matte.
Let me just go back one image and talk about that. And Rick, I'm going to have you talk about it too, because I know you have some thoughts on that. So let's just go back here to, this one had a little thicker matte on it. Is that kind of more what you were referring to, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
For this image, this is the right perspective of a matte for this, you know, square image. This is probably just about right.
Yeah.
Ricky, do you have some additional thoughts?
Yeah, Rob really made some excellent points. When it comes to key lines, you know, any of our participants in this show tonight have ever been on before, they know that Jeff and I talk about this almost ad nauseum, but the keystrokes, key lines, I consider that there are two types. This is an example of what I would call a detached key line. And I think it's very appropriate for this image because for the tonality and color of that key line, if it was the other one, which I call attached, in other words, snaps all the way around the image, we would, in some areas, lose the key line because it's the same color value as the area that it's wrapped around. And to me, that's a big no-no. A key line should be able to be seen all the way around the image and not be hidden once it's snapped to the image, to where, okay, we see the key line because it's nice and dark, we see the key line, and then all of a sudden we lose it. Same thing on the left top side, you know, we would probably be losing it there, but of course we're seeing it here because it's against a darker value. So I think that's pretty important and something that needs to be taken into consideration for our images. And you know, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, well, I'm going to try one like this and try one detached and one attached, and do a side by side and see what how they look for you. And you can also do that by changing the color of the key lines and doing side by side. So, you know, gosh, the tools that we have now, it's just not like the old days in physical print, because man, the process that we had to go through to get to the presentation. But
No
you know,
kidding.
and the bottom line, totally agree with Rob as far as presentation. It is important, or it wouldn't be in one of the part of the elements. And you know, when you think about it, you go to any fine restaurant, a chef prides themselves not only in the preparation of the meal, but how it's presented. So I think that's something that we need to keep in mind on our images. And because the fact of the matter is, full bleeds rarely do well.
Or you'll have a judge that will make a comment about it, then all the other judges will go, oh yeah, you're right. And it does kind of tend to pull it back. Yeah. The only other thing I would add, just to kind of reiterate what both the guys said here, was just, I think the color harmony or the color coordination of the mat and this key line with the image is really important, because you can go in with your eyedropper and pick a color. It's great, it blends, but if you've got a bright white keystroke, just because there's some white in the image, it's going to draw the attention away from the image. So just always remember your matte color density, lightness and darkness, that is, and the key line color and such should be there, supportive, color coordinating, but very subtle. Color coordinating is great, but just tone it back. If you're not sure of the color, just take the opacity of that layer of whichever you need, just bring it back a little bit so that it's there, but it's not too much. And even on a keystroke like this one here, personally, I don't think I'd go larger than that. Matter of fact, I'd probably even go thinner. That looks like that could be 10, 12 points. But just keep in mind, we don't need big keystrokes. We don't need, some people will do double keystrokes. They're being color coordinated. I've seen double keystrokes that are not attached and they're two different colors. You're starting to introduce a rainbow effect, and that's pulling the judge's eye away. So, okay, enough of that. I just wanted to get a little education in there for everybody. Let's move on. We got a couple more images here to go to talk about. This one is called Herding Cats. Rick, you want to jump into this one?
Yeah. First of all, I really enjoy the panel approach to this image. You know, we just talked about the mat and the key line. I think it supports the image very well. Shallow depth of field creates the depth that we want to see. Unfortunately for me, the overall image just has a flat quality to it in terms of lighting. You know, you capture what you're going to capture when you capture it. I get all that, but wouldn't an ideal situation be at an earlier or later time of day when the critters are more in a backlit situation that would you know, create a little more impact with the image? You know, and I can just hear people saying, well, gosh, that's it was there, that's what I had to work with.
Right.
And I totally agree. Then the question is it worthy of submission? And that's the distinction that we have to make, you know, as far as entering images. But you know, a lot of good things about it. But for me, the impact just wanes because of the flatness of the lighting, or the weakness of the lighting, maybe.
Rob, your thoughts, sir?
Well, I love the title and the color harmonies throughout this image. I think the image does have impact just because of the storytelling that's happening
Right.
throughout the image.
Right.
I do think it's an image that should be considered for competition. And to Rick's point about tonality, I think it's within a workable range. As it is, no, you're right. It probably isn't going to get accepted, but I think with today's software, you could enhance this color tonality in this image to give it a little bit more punch and probably catch the judge's eyes a little bit better. However, even having said that, the biggest issue I have with this image is distractions. And so many of these, and I don't know what particular animal this is, so I don't want to make myself sound ignorant about it.
I don't either, so you're cool.
Okay, but there's some that are sharp, really sharp, and then there's a couple that aren't. And so there's some that could use maybe a little bit of sharpening, like the one over here on the far left, this guy right here, and back here. This one looks a little sharp, a little bit unsharp as well. And then possibly even this guy right here in the front. And then we have this area back here in the back, which is a distraction for me. Is I think that this is too bright back here up at the top. It pulls me up. And then we've got some kind of aberration happening here in this edge. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Look along this edge right here. There's some like, I don't know. It's I can't explain what it is, but it's a distraction. It's pulling my eye up there, and something that maybe got taken too far, or it's just the way the landscape appears in the low depth of field. And there's some other small distractions as well. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, were you done?
I just gonna say, I think it's an image worth working on. That's my last
Okay.
comment about it.
That's good. No, I agree with you there. I definitely think there's a lot going on that's very positive and a few little things. And I'm not going to repeat everything you said because you handle it real well. I just think this corner asks for a lot of attention, could be toned down. This is a digital artifacting that does happen when you take an out of focus background and try and darken it. So just be aware of that. It can be easily fixed. Minor thing, but for competition, because I'm seeing a little bit up in here too. Yeah, these sticks, I probably would get rid of, some of these extraneous sticks. I mean, there's a lot of them. You don't want to clean up the whole hill, but there's just a few of them, like, maybe even these, I don't know, minor thing, but some of these are they're just asking for a little attention. And like these guys here, I know it's part of the scene, but again, we're talking a point here and a point there, just a little clean. I don't expect you to go in and clean up all the sticks along here. But I mean, I think the rest of the scene is very well said. And matter of fact, the color palette of this image, I enjoy very much, very soft. Good choice of matte, good choice of the this is right on for a little key line. So good work there. But I think some of these little things that we talked about, there's just nice little backlighting here that could be enhanced just a little bit on each animal, each critter. This could be really, really score well, I believe. So cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, we have next King Penguin Tai Chi. That's some creative thinking there. Rob, what do you think?
Well, let's start with the presentation. I like the presentation on this image. I think it's neutral. It's not too bright. It's the key line is handled well. So since we just had a big conversation about that, I just wanted to mention that right off the top. I like that.
Agreed.
The image is unique for sure. And what a wonderful capture. Kudos to the photographer for being in the right place at the right time to get this double itch getting scratched. And it's a fun, playful kind of an image. I'm not sure, though, as a competition image, that it's going to do very well. And the reason is just because of it's such a static composition. We have these two verticals there and placed the way they are, I can't get out of them. My eye doesn't move around this composition at all. And the foreground being so bright down here, this area could be cropped off, I think. I think that the surf in behind them is really bright and is pulling my eye back behind them here a little bit more than I think it should. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful capture. I'm not sure, at least the way it's presented here, that it's going to be a competition image that does well. What do you guys think?
Rick?
Yeah, I agree. What concerned me, I think the quality of the image in terms of exposure is fine, but what bothered me were the 5 horizons. So we've got one here, one here, one here, and then another one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 horizontal planes that are really demanding attention for me anyway.
Yeah, good call. I see that too. I'm going to bring this into Photoshop. I have an idea that maybe for this image would be kind of cool, kind of based on what you guys are saying. What if we were to look at something and just make this a really tight, in your face? The pose of the 2 penguins is very unique in a sense, not what we think about. And the static that Rob mentioned, let's play that up and really make this, I don't know, I'm just throwing some ideas out here to really make this powerful. We've eliminated a lot. There's still those lines you're talking about. I would almost maybe go into this area here. Let me get my little pen tool again here. And this one probably catches my eye the most. I'm not so, yeah, these two too. Eliminating that one line at the top, darkening this area here a little bit would eliminate that. It's kind of hard. It's kind of a busy beach, but maybe even softening this tone along the water's edge at the, so just stuff like that that might create just a little bit less obvious call where you're going to get more into the penguins. And they're such a unique pose, and the title I think is right on. It's hard to tell. I mean, we can't sit here and say it's going to score this or that or the other, but that's maybe what I would do to eliminate or alleviate some of the issues that you guys mentioned, just to give it a little bit more power and really play up the fact that we have 2 static bookends here, but yet let's really I mean, you could even go as far as cutting this guy out and sliding him over, making it, make this fin like right here. I mean, little things like that. You could really make some cool, interesting graphic piece out of it, and kind of, I don't want to say salvage, because it is a really cool piece. Let me go back to the whole image here in Photoshop. Whoops. And okay, close the window. There we go. And I can make the tools work. There we go. I think it's a very unique piece, and I think maybe little things like that we just talked about might give it that much more impact for the subject matter, and play down that background. As pretty as this is, who doesn't want to sit on this little slope right here and look at this surf and the beautiful sky? But for competition, I think we need to play that down a little bit. Yeah, that's just my thoughts. Anything else to add to that, guys?
No, if we're going to, continue with it, just the little cleanup things that we talked about, that little spot under the wing or fin or whatever it is, and everything else that's been mentioned.
And I think, I mean, kudos to the maker, because I mean, penguins with their black and white coats in a bright sunny day situation like this, that's a tough capture.
Yeah.
You've done a great job to give us detail on the back, the shadow side of this guy, even on the white belly side of this guy, and not make it look like it's been overworked. It looks very believable and very good. So that's just beautiful. I mean, look at the tone of the black in this arm fin. It's gorgeous. So good job there. So
what a conversation piece this image is as well.
Well, that's just it. Yeah.
And it would, and like you mentioned earlier, this thing would sell like hotcakes. If you were selling fine art images in a beach community. People would love to have something like this hanging in their beach home. You know,
Sure.
I mean, it's fun. It's conversational. It's well exposed. If I was a photographer, I'd be jazzed about this capture.
Yeah.
But some of my best captures that I love the most are not competition images. They're
No,
just,
isn't that true? Yeah.
and sometimes you just have to be okay with that
Yeah.
and use the photo for what it was intended. And, you know, but you know, I love that crop you did, Jeff. That definitely helped a lot.
Well, I think that's kind of going back to our conversation at the top of the show, was just about the fact that what a judges and the panel is looking for. And I hate to use the word perfection. You know, we've talked about 100 is not the perfect score. It's just the top of that category. And at some point we have to stop, but sure, we want to get the highest scores we can. And it's these little tiny things that add up a point here and a point there. Standing in I mean, picture this in a square gift card with that title on it, Penguin, King Penguin. I'd even drop King, just say Penguin Tai Chi, and just make it a generic. I mean, people would buy it just because it's so clever. It's
Yeah,
so
they would eat
unique.
it up for sure.
Yeah, or a poster. I mean, people would, you know, yeah. It's just that kind of a thing. You're really feeding into humor, which I've always found to be a good little way to go about creating some neat imagery, whether it's for competition or gift shop or whatever. So,
Or if this project allowed for a series of images,
yeah,
you know, to make a little book out of it.
good idea. Yeah, exactly. Just think of that with several. I always think when we talk about that, I always think of our friend Jim Shigaris with his beautiful books of you know, just geese or just the bears, and the little sayings and stories he puts with it. It's just stellar stuff, but it makes you want to have those images in your hands, whether it's competition or in a book that he does.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
To our members out there, our participants, you know, and we've brought this up before, we just really feel that this is a great opportunity for our participants because you know, you're getting 3 different perspectives. And as you noticed during this session, we didn't necessarily agree on every image. And that's a good thing, because you need to have different perspectives, and from those perspectives build on, and hopefully, you know, take the suggestions to heart and see where you can go with them.
That's a great point, Rick. And I think remember one of the things that I remember from back when I was a young guy starting out, my dad was an affiliate juror, and the things that he would talk about was how you bring into this panel of 4 other esteemed jurors your opinions, but it's your opinions. And we talk about it and we do the best to say, well, here's what I like, here's what I think didn't work. And then our final score is usually a team of trying to, you know, the benefit of the doubt to the maker. Obviously, we want to encourage the maker. But on the other hand, I think it's only fair, and I think that's the consensus, and I'll see what you guys think, that it's a consensus where it's got to be fair score. Just because we're trying to be nice doesn't mean we should all jump into the 90s. So I think it's honest and fair if we say, well, no, this is a 75 because there's certain reasons that it just didn't work. So,
well, and you know, I would imagine, Rob and Jeff, that you've both have been involved in maybe local guild, not photography, but maybe art guild presentations where they've asked you, part of which is photography in that particular competition, as well as other art forms. And so many times, because I've done it a couple times in our community, and it's a one-man jury. And how can you not bring your prejudices to to that event? But I have always maintained that there is no fairer system than the PP of A system when it comes to evaluating images. I mean, there's 5 people on a panel. We all have diverse backgrounds, but hopefully we've been trained in terms of etiquette and following the elements. So I think it's so important, because out of those 5 opinions, one result will come up. And, you know, as far as tonight is concerned, I just like to make sure that our folks, our friends, know that they are our perspectives, but ultimately it's your decision.
yeah, really good information there. Good advice, because it is definitely based on Angela Adams has a famous saying that he said about that, and it was about how our lives and our art are based on our experiences. I don't remember the quote. The quote to you, I'm not that good. Anything else you want to add to that, Rob, before we move along?
No, I think you guys, you said it well. I really believe that a well-trained and practiced juror, it's every bit as rewarding as being an image maker is. And being a part of a panel that works together, and while you might have a couple jurors who voice very strong opposite opinions about a particular image, but by the time everyone has had their chance, that image will usually end up where it's supposed to be, because of all the things that Rick just mentioned about the etiquette and the training and the system itself. It really does work.
Yep.
Yeah, and one other thing that comes to mind when you say that is how many times, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, obviously, I've entered the same image to 3 or 4 different panels, and more times than not, it scores within a range, 80 to 85, 89, 80 to 9 to whatever. There's been a couple of times when I had an image score 91 the first time and 76 the next time, but it was also because there was a judge in the panel who they just pulled out of the audience right away. So it does show how the trained, not just trained to judge, but just the veteran photographer has a lot to offer and work as a good team. So, all right. So without further ado, guys, let's move along to the next image. All right, let's move along here. We have one called Morning Walk Among the Wildflowers. What a cool art piece on impact when it first comes up. How cool to have. I mean, I've chased bison myself enough times to know it's rare to have beautiful flowers in the scene, even though they eat the stuff. But how well done this is. Great detail throughout. You got some nice shadows. Let me get my little pen tool here. Some nice shadows underneath here, but I'm seeing just ever so soft details in here. So that's good. Very nice. Great contrast and tonal range from the highlights of the top of the animal down to the shadows. I like the vignette on this. This is just cool. It just brings us into the image. Nice. There's detail in it, but it's soft. Really gives us a place. I even kind of like the tight crop. This makes, I mean, the bison are obviously a big, powerful animal. I think this really adds to that. Here you have this powerful animal in this field of flowers, and yet we've got this, look at the muscles, the muscle tone and the hips, and you can see the body cavity there, but man, the eye's still peeking at us right there. Look at that. Isn't that cute? And then the color harmony, I think the matte's done well. The white liner, or white key line, yeah, okay, I might have toned that down a little bit, being picky, but Rob, what do you think?
Well, you did a great job there, Jeff.
Okay, cool.
At first the purple kind of threw me, and then I realized what the maker was going for here, and I think they've done a good job with that. Yeah, the tight crop is fine because they left the bison somewhere to go, right? They left room in front. So he's got room to travel. We've got this sense of motion from right to left. And that's an interesting choice too, right? Because we're in the Western world, we're used to things going left to right. So it's got a little bit of angst to it because it goes in that other direction. I thought for a second that the tail wasn't sharp, but there's sharpness there in the tail. Yeah, I think it's an interesting and pleasing image. It definitely has impact. It's almost like a fine art bison or something.
Yeah, isn't it? Exactly.
But I wonder, anybody that lives in Colorado, anybody that lives in Colorado knows, how do you get a buffalo that looks this good?
That's true. Usually they're pretty beaten up. They're
usually pretty beaten up and shaggy.
Yeah. Tails.
This guy looks great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really an awesome image.
The
Even
color
just the little body, having both points of the horn showing is cool. Just gives us some nice depth to it. And yeah, I think the thing there that Rob's referring to is, how we're taught. We read left to right in this part of the world. So a lot of times we want things to come in from the left, but the tight crop going, and I'll say wrong directions with air quotes like George Carlin hates, adds to that tension, adds to the power, adds to the whole, like, really look at me kind of a thing. And then yet I'm standing in a bed of flowers. I think this is cool. I would score this pretty well. Technically, it's done. Couple of things I might suggest, like these two little reeds, just getting them out of the face. And since there's not a whole bunch of grass in front of the, I might get rid of all these guys. Minor point, but it just, you know, since there's not a, like I said, a whole bunch of grass, I'd get rid of those. But man, what a great concept. What a great, well done. I love the mat. Okay, I'll shut up now. I like it. Cliff, anything else? Or if I could cut you off there.
No, that was what really caught me was just the overall wonderful color harmony of this. It's just it's beautiful.
Well, I have to agree with you what you said about the fur, the skin of the buffalo. Usually you see them all beat up. That's gorgeous. Look at that. All right, good job there. Good job. Let's see. We now have Living on the Edge. Rob, your thoughts?
Well, the first thing I see in this image is there's some sort of a grid pattern appearing throughout the image. I see it. It's all up and down here, all across here. And so it's totally distracting me from enjoying the image. You can clear those, Jeff. I don't know how to clear those, but
That's all right. Yeah, I got it.
And so I don't know, there's some sort of a texture happening there that doesn't seem appropriate or inherent to this photograph. I like the image design. I love the shadow. I love the composition of it. But it does seem a bit underexposed to me. And I'm assuming it has a black mat and we're just looking at it on a black.
Yeah, very faintly there is
Photoshop.
that comes out here. So it is black. And then
Okay.
there's a little key line, and the edge of the image is just right in there. So
Yeah,
yes,
those things don't always come through in Zoom, I know.
right.
But definitely some things, if I was entering this image, I would want to try to clean up, as we've talked about previously tonight, with little distractions and things. But this tree also doesn't seem to be real sharp to me, and that would be a problem as well. What do you guys think?
Cliff?
Well, I was looking at that little the grid you mentioned, Rob, and I'm not sure if that's the image or if that's just a compression artifact from Zoom, but I do see it.
And I don't. So just to throw that out there.
Well, there you go. So
Really?
I'm going to assume that it's really not part of the image, just for discussion's sake. Having said that, I think maybe kind of like the Chrysler Building picture, this might need just a little tweak on contrast to bring up the sand just a little bit, and the tree down at the bottom. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it for an image like this, that tree should be sharp.
Well, you think maybe, like Rob said, it might be just a little bit underexposed. Which is going to be a problem in sharpness.
That may be it.
And I would bet too that to the maker, you could take this into a topaz photo or something and sharpen up just the tree and really bring that up.
That topaz photo AI is amazing.
Isn't that amazing stuff? Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just so you know too, when the new Photoshop comes out here soon that has the AI stuff in it, the sharpening tool and the resize tool in there is going to be probably every bit as good as Topaz Photo AI.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to let that dollar go away. So,
but I love the graphic line that that line that's really cool. I mean that shadow. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a good composition here, I think. So Rob, you're suggesting maybe a little bit more space here again, kind of thing.
Yeah, it definitely needs more space. I just think there's a lot of technical excellence issues with this image, though, that I don't think it would merit as is. Just being honest with the maker.
Right. No, and that's what we're trying to do here. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing myself again on my screen. I do not see any. And that's the area you're talking about, right, guys?
Yeah.
I don't see anything there. It just looks like a deep shadow. what I see is a heavier shadow right here, which I think is, to me, kind of leans towards the underexposure. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see any kind of a grid pattern or anything there. So that'd
Yeah,
be,
I don't think that's probably not in the image.
that's somewhere it's just probably in the show. But yeah, and I would bet this could be tweaked just a little bit more. I bet the tree could be sharpened, but we can get a little more contrast out of it. Could add a little bit, maybe bring, this line maybe about up here. Get rid of these little bit of distractions on the edge of the hill. These little trees down here, because they're not really supporting it. I'd probably even get rid of this one little, whatever it's footprints or just snow. It looks like maybe this. And again, it seems real minor, but stuff like that just pulls your eye away from. We want, as the maker of this, we want our judges and our viewers to go right in and see this, follow this line, come back down, see it, follow the line again. And if there's all these little things off to the side, the maker, or the viewer's eyes will go over here and look at all these things, and it's taking them away. As minor as they are, they're there. It's taking us away from looking at what you want them to see. So that's my
In the
story.
comments,
Sticking with it.
in
Yeah.
the comments, Paige says crop the sky out completely. It doesn't add to the image. I'm not sure how you do that.
You mean just cut it down to here, Paige, like this, or not there, but like crop it down to here? Is that what you're thinking? That wouldn't be bad either. Yeah, that's something that I remember my dad teaching me that years ago. Is if the sky is not helping and really giving you power in the scene, then eliminate it or bring it down as much as you can. So that could be another way to look at it. Because what happens then is we get this powerful pyramid right at the top edge of the scene. I'll say it feels cramped, but on the other hand, it's like the buffalo, the bison in the last image. Tightness sometimes is tension. Tension is maybe what you want as a maker. You want it to seem in your face. You want it to seem powerful. And you want to see, if you left a lot of sky, this wouldn't seem as ominous as it is when it's tight like that. So opinion, yeah, I know. Moving right along.
How many images more do you have to do, Jeff? Because just keeping track of Rob has to leave.
We have an hour left here.
Yeah.
And we have let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about a dozen, about 13 images to go. So
Okay.
So we need to pick the pace up a little bit. So let's run. Yeah, I think we're fine. I'm kind of watching it, but let's see. So this one is titled "She's a Beaut." Cliff, you want to jump in real quick on this?
No, give me a chance to look at it.
Okay. Rob, thoughts?
Well, could you say the title again?
She's a Beaut.
She's a Beaut. Okay. Well, I like the title.
Yeah.
I love the scene. I think it has impact when it comes up. But we got some hot spots here that are keeping me out of the most interesting part of the scene that I need to bring attention to right away. And that would be, this whole area of the sky up here is super bright. And then some of these areas of the wheatgrass and stuff that's growing are pretty hot and keeping me out of traveling out here into the scene. So I think the foreground needs to come down a little bit more. And it also seems like maybe we have kind of maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's just a visual. Looked like maybe the image was leaning a little bit to me, but maybe it's not. Maybe that's just a.
You think it's just because of this hill?
Yeah, I think
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think it's pretty straight. Otherwise.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty straight. Presentation's fine, although a little narrow. I'd give it a little bit more matte around it and maybe darken the brown down a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, that top left corner, definite eye trap. It's really pulls your eye up there.
Yeah, if we had that tone probably more in here, kind of tones, it would be a little more even and less obvious. You think that's your saying?
Yeah.
Cliff, anything you want to add?
Well, now that I see that over there at the left, but of course I'm not a landscape guy. To me, that doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Over there, but I know for landscape people, yeah, that probably is a big deal, but I still see detail over there. As I was looking at it, yeah, what came to me was I thought the mat was a little thin around it. But I don't really have that much to say about this. Again, I think it's really, it took me a second to realize when he said it's a butte that we're looking at a butte. I mean, that's how dumb I am. It took me a while
There wasn't, because there
to
wasn't
figure
a
that out.
soldier, there wasn't a World War Vietnam veteran standing on that hill there.
Well, yeah, or an arrow pointing at it or something, right? Yeah.
So she's a butte. That's what you wanted right there.
Yeah. It took me a while, but I think it's gorgeous. The color's great. I just I don't disagree with Rob, but that bright area just doesn't bother me.
Okay. Well, again, that's why we have 5 judges, because it, there's some things that do hit others and some that don't hit us.
Yep.
And I look at this kind of scene, I want to walk in and sit down right here and just sit
Yeah.
there until the sun goes down. So that means I like this picture a lot. So for what that's worth to the maker. All right. Any other comments, or I'll just move on to the next one here. Let's see. So we have it's too funny how all of a sudden things work great when I practice this, and then when I'm not practicing it, all of a sudden windows pop up where they're not supposed to, and I can't find the next picture. Sorry about that. Okay. Not all those who wander are lost. So I'll jump in real quick here and start. First of all, a good story. I mean, I think that brings us in as a viewer, as a judge, that it kind of, sets some sort of a tone, some sort of a scene in our mind that we want to go in and see what are they doing, whether they're not lost. Okay, obviously this guy knows where he's going. He's got his pack mule with him, his supplies, and so he's on a journey. So he obviously knows where he's going. I like the long format. Excuse me. Get my little pen tool here. I like the long, narrow format. That's cool. Placing the subject over here on the left from center gives us all this room to move like we've been talking. That's great. Good call on the composition. I like the horizon line being down here. Gives us a lot of nice, makes it really feel like they are out in the middle of nowhere. The sky is soft and nice. If you would have darkened the blue and brightened the white, it would have taken over too much. I don't object to the face not being more visible, because it's not a portrait. It's not about this person. It's about the story. So I'm okay with that. Good detail throughout. The red flowers, obviously were there, and sometimes we enhance those, and I guess it's fine. I don't know that it was necessary. What happens is some of these that are right on the border of the scene, again, tend to pull our eye down to that for what's the reason for it. Again, minor thing, I probably would have played that color down because they really don't have anything to do with the story. That's just me. Rob, what do you think?
Good comments. Yeah, at first I was wondering if the sky was too bright, but I feel like there's, while you were talking, really studying it, there's detail throughout the whole sky, and I like that the sky is in there. Could you repeat the title for me?
Sure. It is Not All Those Who Wander Are Lost.
Yeah, I love that title.
Great story, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, like you mentioned, we've got somewhere to go here. We've got the left to right composition, and that's great. That's all fine. And I love this little key line that picks up on the colors that are in the sagebrush there in the foreground. Nicely done. Yeah.
Anything to add, Cliff?
No, I think you got it. I think it's a great image. It's a Colorado image, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, your thoughts on key lines. Is this, and again, kind of more personal preference, do you think this is too far away? Do you think it needs to be closer? Does that matter?
I think this is a style of key line. And to me, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can do the one simple one and I think it should be a little bit farther out if that's what you're going to do. I frequently do an inset one and then another one on the image itself. So I'll do that a lot with a lot of my images.
Okay.
And maybe even put a little bit of a bevel or a shadow matte in between the two of them. But
Right.
I think for what this one is, it's simple, it's clean, and it
Yeah, it
works.
works. Yeah. I might, and and this is just a thought, I might suggest to the maker, go in and experiment with a matte color that's more like the blue sky or a gray. This is not bad as color harmony, but I maybe just try it and see. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying try it and see. Go in and pick a blue gray for the mat and see what happens. That because I feel like this has quite a strong border on it, and maybe if the color of the mat was more in the background color, it might be even less obvious. Just a thought. Okay, moving along. Whoops, I did that already. Go away. So we have next, on top of the beat. Get my dots all the way there. I think what a great point of view. Not something we see, not something that's, you know, commonplace when you think of a musician or a band or a portrait of an artist or something like that. I think the whole concept is done. It's filled nicely with the instrument. Just a little bit, again, like I said, the other image, a little bit of the maker's face, excuse me, the drummer's face is fine. I don't think we need to see more of it. I'm glad we see a little bit. It gives us that personal touch. Nice playing, just kind of a cool story. Good black and white throughout, nice tones and all the way through the spectrum. Whites are white without blowing out, blacks are black with still detail in here. So good job. What you think, Cliff?
You know, sometimes we talk about, you know, cleaning things up that are distractions. I love all the clutter that's in here. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the story. Is his shirt is down there. He's just in his wife's beater right now, but his shirt is down there. It looks like a beer down beside him. And I think we want to leave all that stuff. That's the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, great black and white. I really like this a lot.
Yeah, good story. Rob, thoughts?
Great title, great storytelling. I agree with the positives that have been mentioned on the image already. I see a couple things though, one of which is that, and these are small things, right? But this is what we're here to do, is talk about potential for competition. This little guy right here, that's a problem. Let me get sorry, I need to get my tool back. There we go. Right there, that thing, right in there.
Yeah.
That easily be removed. Also, this is an image where I would pull the key line off the edge of the photo. To me, that makes it feel cramped. I love the viewpoint. I love the storytelling and the title and how all that goes with this. But I would get that stroke off of the edge of the image and move it out, give it some space around the image. And then I think if you did what Jeff was talking about earlier, you took this image and spun it upside down in Photoshop, you would see, in fact, Jeff, could you do that right now? Could you go image rotate?
Sure can. Hang on, I gotta
180.
do a couple of things here to.
As if the maker's watching, I just want them to see this. And I know you'll see it if he flips it around. Where does your eye go now? Goes right here. This is the hottest part of the whole image, is the back of his shoulder and
Right
his
there, yeah.
elbow. Yeah. So tone those down. That's very easy to do. Not a lot. That's not a major edit of any kind. And then, I mean, these are little things, but things that I think will help the image even more.
Yeah, good comments. I think it's great.
I wouldn't crop this edge off over here to get rid of this thing, because then you're into your music sheets here.
Yeah.
So you don't want to crop, just retouch it. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. As I look at a couple of things, I see it kind of catch my eye. This little line, this little guy, even this little line. They're minor because you got lots of other stuff. Maybe even tone this down. But other than that, man, what a great story, huh?
Yeah, very, very awesome story, and good black and white quality.
Yeah, that's the other thing we really talk about too much, is a definite good quality there on the black and white, good tonal range. Okay, we don't want to save that. So let's move along here. We now have, again, let me get rid of my This is called Peculiar Princess. I don't know that it was supposed to be a humorous thing, but I think it's done very well. Great title, Peculiar Princess. You have to stop. Why peculiar? Well, you start looking at it and you'll obviously see what's been done to create a little bit of distortion in the head size, the smaller hands, even giving us just a little smaller person overall in the whole scene. I mean, just leaving a lot of room here and here and here. Not I shouldn't do that one. Here and here, just really makes it a smaller kind of feel. Beautiful lighting, good tonal range on the skin tone. You know, arguably this is the brightest spot. Yeah, we could tone that down, let this be the brighter spot here. Hands are fine, but man, beautiful color, background, dress, the mat, the whole thing, the whole presentation. Very cool. Cliff, what do you think?
Yeah, my first thought was, why is there so much space above her? But then I realized, no, that's really appropriate because
Yeah.
it is supposed to diminish this person a little bit. So yeah, I just and I love the background, the
Yeah, I want
texture,
that.
that color and the texture in that background is that's just outstanding. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, the lighting is great. It's kind of strange, but in a good way.
Um, yeah, I like the image too. It's got a lot of impact. I like the storytelling and clever title, all that. You know, using this pixelation as a technique to help tell the story is all great. I love all, and I agree with all the positives that have been mentioned here. And I hate to be a killjoy, but there's a couple things though. Down here, there's something odd going on right here with some colorization of some of those pixels and a straight blue line that runs off the image. Please tell me you're seeing this, Jeff, on your monitor.
I'm not seeing, are you drawing on it too? I'm not seeing that
No,
either.
okay, I'll draw.
Yeah.
Right here, goes like this, right there,
I don't
here,
see it.
and then there, and there's a blue line right there at the top of it. It's incongruent with all the rest of this. And I'm using my judging monitor right now, so
Right.
I don't think and I don't think it's a Zoom thing. And then the other thing is, and it may be the maker's intention, this border is kind of rough, like the pixelation in the background, but this bottom left corner is rounded because of it, where these other corners are straight. So
Oh, I do see that a little bit.
see that? It's kind of rounded and there's like some chunks missing there, and maybe that's what they wanted. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're going for. But all I'm saying is this thing next to the right of her dress and this thing in the left corner are a distraction. I'm getting distracted from enjoying the image. And if you are an entrant, you don't want judges getting distracted by your main subject and center of interest. So
Right.
Can you take that away, Jeff? Let me look at that again because I didn't see it.
Yeah, hang on. So I'm looking at it. I have a bridge.
Oh
open
yeah,
as
okay.
well.
Now it's kind of a blue purplish thing.
yeah, and at the top of it, there's like a line that's the same color as her dress that goes across the top of it here.
Yeah, I do see it.
And then over here, we have these pixels that are like missing.
Well, you know, Rob, that's why you get the big bucks.
He's got
What-
better eyes than we do, Cliff.
What big bucks?
Oh, we didn't tell you. Okay, we'll send a check. Checks in the mail. Well, to the maker, just, you know, investigate that a little bit more. And I will
Yeah.
say that
Yeah.
so on my one monitor that I use for judging as well, I do not see that. On my other monitor, which is, I know is drifted a little bit in Bridge, I do see it. So there is something there, but I'm not seeing it on the display monitor. So whatever. Maker, you'll have to just kind of look at it a little bit more and deduce if you're seeing anything there. Because yeah, just like that, you can do that. The elements of design are suggestions. They're guidelines for judges to look at it. But technical excellence is not it either is or it isn't, right, guys? It's sharp or it's not sharp, and you'll get it'll be held, these kind of things will be held against you in scoring. All the rest of them are, impact and all this stuff are really kind of more towards the feeling of the judge and how they respond to it. But the technical excellence, man, that's got to be right on. Real quick, there's a
We have to.
text. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cliff.
There was a question, if we can do this quickly, we missed it. It's my fault. If we're talking about the drummer image, if the drummer is a reportage image, how would you handle the distractions that were mentioned?
Yeah, I see that. Good question. Any thoughts on that, Rob, yourself?
Well, you can't take them out.
Right.
You could do burning on the shoulders that I was talking about.
Yeah.
If you can do dodging and burning in basic exposure correction. So, I mean, yeah, you could tone some of those things down. That would be okay. But as far as removing other stuff, yeah, that's not supposedly allowed.
Okay.
All right.
There you go. This one is called Searching for Clams. Rob, what do you think?
Getting my pencil ready to go here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love the impact right away when it came up. I love the reflection in the water.
Yeah.
I see that we have a real, shallow depth of field here in the background. I'm okay with that. I'm just wondering if the bear is sharp enough. I think it is. But I love the placement in the composition of the bear. Being a PPA trained juror, I would love to see some presentation on the image. But I could see giving this image a merit without it.
Right.
Yeah.
Cliff, what do you think?
Yeah, I certainly agree. What a great story. And I love the background there with the fog rolling in, the mountain in the background, then the fog, then the pine trees, then the shore, then the water. I mean, it's just a lot of layers there. And the color is great.
Yeah, good story, good depth. And the bear looks very sharp.
Yeah, it looks sharp to me
very,
too.
very acceptably sharp to me. So I think that's cool. And one thing, just for you, Rob, a lot of people ask, since we got some new folks and stuff, that we talk about the presentation, and I tell some people not to worry about it if they don't get it or don't know here, just because we're talking more about the photograph and such. But yes, for PPA competition, it does have to have that mat and a key line and some sort of a presentation. And for those of you who are wanting to enter the upcoming Colorado thing, you're not sure about that, please reach out to Rick or I, and we can help you with those kind of things. So, but yeah, I mean, this is just a great story. Even the placement of the bear is good. It gives us room to wander and enjoy the whole scene. And yet we keep coming back to the bear. So, very cool. Very nicely done. All right. Then we have There is gold in them hill. No, sorry, I read this wrong. There is gold in them thar hills. Sorry, Maker, I blew that one.
Way to go, Jeff.
Geez, they even give you a good title and you can't do it. Jeez.
I know, isn't that true? Yeah. Get somebody who can read. Well, the letters have gotten so much smaller on the computers lately. I don't know what's happened. Cliff, you want to dive into this one?
Yeah, sure. Right off the bat, I think the mat needs to be a little broader. It's a little tight. It's just the image needs, and I'm not sure I like that green for the border for the mat. But overall, I mean, the image is what great color. I mean, the color harmony it's just terrific. I'm wondering about that little over there, the far right in the sky, that one little spot there. Yeah, that right there. The other side is fine because there's a lot of it, but that kind of pulls your eye over there. I'm not sure we need that. But other than that, I don't really have a lot to say about it. I think it's beautiful, except for the color of the mat and the size of it.
Rob?
Lots of impact when the image came up. Love the color harmony throughout the image. I agree with Cliff. The mat needs to be wider. You need to get rid of that green. I think maybe using some of the tones down here might be a good matte color as your
Yeah.
main matte color, and maybe pulling a very muted orange for a stroke or something, or even just a gray stroke or something
Even
like that.
this, even that for stroke would be
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
yeah, the grass color, yeah, that might be nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, use those, those earth tones. Basically, I think is where we're going with that. Big hot spot here for me. I think this could be easily toned down. And in addition to this one as well, you don't want something that close to the edge. It's going to pull it, the eye right off the side of the image. Looks like there's plenty of detail to be had there. And it still will look like the sun is shining on it if you just tone it down just a little bit. I love how we got detail though all the way back up here. The road bringing me into the composition. Yeah, my eye just kind of works my way through this whole deal. I love the detail up here in the sky and the clouds. Yeah, it's a good image. It's got potential. Definitely just, some little
Sure.
cleanups and some presentation work.
Pretty much what I would say. So I agree with all of you. All those things is great. Yeah, it's easy to come when you're doing the mats, and we've mentioned this many times. So sorry if I'm repeating myself, but it's easy to pick colors in the scene, and obviously these colors are in the scene, but they still need to be subtle. The yellow and the green do match the colors of the Hespens, but they're asking for too much attention is kind of what we're saying. So this idea down here would probably be good, or even some of the other reddish tones might work pretty well too. But again, very muted, very soft. So good job, guys. All right.
Beautiful location. Wow.
Yeah, it sure is.
This one is called Cascades. Rob, what do you think?
Boom. Lots of impact, man. Man, it's right there. Love the image design here. Love the highlights throughout the image. Couple of them are a little hot here and there. It could be easily toned down, but that's a very small criticism on that. Love the wetness of the rocks. The rocks are clearly a dark black type of rock, but yet we've got detail throughout. Little bit of framing in the top right corner with the debris there on the bank of the creek, stream, river, whatever. We've got some ice there that's got some nice texture to it. Don't really love the mat though. Little too busy for my liking. I love the inside, what you've done here. This is like what I was talking about. I do this a lot on my images, this kind of a border here, but texture here, you don't need this. Let the judges get in there and enjoy
Just a
this
solid color, you're
waterfall.
saying.
Yeah, it's way too busy here. And
There he is.
it's pulling me out from the image, and I just want to get in there and love that waterfall.
Cliff?
Yeah, when I first saw the mat, I thought I kind of like that, and then I thought, but Rob's not going to like it.
Hey, what are you saying, Cliff?
I
But
think
I
he
know
said it, Rob.
I know for competition that Rob is right. Personally, I kind of like that. At least the way I'm viewing it, I kind of like that little. It's a really, texture doesn't scream at you. But Rob is right. For competition, it's not a good idea. The image itself, what impact? Boy, it's great. It just really keeps. It's great detail, wonderful black and white. But save for the matte, it's a great image. Just the matte needs work.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah, it's hard on an image like this. I know from my experience that where do you cut it? Where do you crop it? I mean, I see a couple things here that are starting like this on the edge, little things, but they do pull your eye off the edge. But maybe even this little spot. But I mean, where do you crop something like this? Where do you draw the line? So you just have to kind of police that border.
And once you start cutting those out, then something else shows up.
Well, that's just it. If you start cropping them, so you crop it in here because of this, then you got this.
Then you got that, right? Exactly.
Yeah. But just taking this and either removing it or toning it down, toning this down, just little things like that make them so they're not. And that little trick we did earlier of flipping it upside down, man, do that with your images, because the things that you maybe don't see offhand will jump right out at you. So, all right, good stuff here, guys. We then have When the sun sets on the city. Again, this does have a black mat. So our mat is like, I can just see a faint line like right here. So that's the
Oh,
thickness
yeah.
of our mat there.
Yeah, yeah.
Rob, what are your thoughts?
Well, thanks for letting us know where the mat's at there. Now that you drew that, now I can kind of see the edge of it all
Yeah,
the way
now-
around.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
faint, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, lots of impact when it comes up. It seems to have good detail. And could you repeat the title?
When the sun sets on the city.
Sunsets, and that's a good title. I like the title. I like the stroke around there. It just seems a little bit too contrasty to me, and maybe that's what the maker was going for here. And if that's it, then so be it. But it's kind of breaking down in a couple areas just because of the heavy contrast for me. But I think it's most likely a mirrored image.
Yeah. It's funny, I don't mind the contrast. I mean, it's having stood and looked at different cities and different places in my travels. It is when you have this low of light level, a little bit of daylight that's left, those shadows go dark real fast.
Yeah.
And if you try to expose for that, well, then you lose any beautiful colors that are hitting the buildings. So it's definitely, I mean, you could easily lower the contrast in Photoshop or Lightroom, for example, but I don't mind it. I mean, I think it's held up nicely. I mean, look at the beautiful color tone, the gradations through the building from the, I mean, you're kind of repeating what's happening in the sky way over here. Beautiful, nice pyramid composition through here. The two little boats are just nice little anchors for us to kind of wander around and come back in the city. I think this is really powerful. Cliff, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really, it is contrasty, but again, I don't mind it either. I think it works actually. No, I think it's all been said.
Okay. Yeah, a real powerful image, I believe. So yeah, I at first, I look at some of these kind of scenes and I'm glad there's not a whole bunch of clouds because it does take away from the scene. And I almost at first thought would have maybe even eliminated the few clouds that are there just to give it that nice gradation of sky. Although they're not bad. They're not really pulling my eye. They're
No.
soft enough and subtle
I
enough.
think it gives it some depth.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
exactly.
I think
Yeah,
they
that's
should be
fine.
there. I think they should stay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Maker. Keep that in mind. Keep them there.
Cliff likes the clouds.
I'm a cloud guy.
Cloud man. Okay, so now we have the long trip home. First of all, right off the bat, it hits me what a really cool concept. The title is nice, Long Trip Home. And it does have that you're down low camera angle, gives us a really nice long view of the tracks. I think that's got a lot going for it. Technically, though, sorry, this, I mean, the concept of the sharpness here and back, and then the softness here is fine, but technically it doesn't work because it's sharp right here. Let me get my little pen tool. I'm telling you guys to do it. I'm not doing it. It's sharp here, but it's not sharp here. That's all in the same plane. It's not sharp here and it's sharp here. For a fine art piece, something you're going to hang in a gallery or something like that, that's great. I can just tell you though, at least I think, see what you guys think. For a PPA competition, it would be sunk because of that. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, you said it. I mean, yeah, the technical excellence there is one of our 12 elements, and you're going to get ripped for that because it just doesn't happen, right? The physics of that just can't happen.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah.
we need to have that sharpness all in that same plane. I also feel like the track on the left is higher than the track on the right a little bit.
No, that's not uncommon. I mean, tracks aren't level.
Yeah, that's true.
It goes up and down, and I think it is higher too, but
Yeah, it's a concept piece. It's not for me. I don't get any impact from it. And then with the technical excellence issues, and I do think it's creative. But the lighting's so flat. I mean, there's more going against it in a competition image than there is going for it.
I hear a whistle.
do you want to get out of do you want to untie yourself and get off the tracks?
Here's the whistle.
Well, if this was hanging, think of this hanging huge in some restaurant or some
it would,
entrance of a building. I think it would be just stunning. I love the tracks. I mean, look at this, the line of I mean, that's really good, solid it's, we call it a bullseye composition, but that works for this concept piece. Again, I'm trying to make a major obvious explanation to the maker here. Any PPA competition will sink this because of the sharpness, but a gallery would probably love this. A business and office would probably love this because they're not looking at it the same way. So
no, if that were in a bar, the guy in the bar is not going to say, "Man, look at that. The depth of field is all right."
Unless it was a photographer's convention.
Unless there was a photographer there. That's right.
But even the matte is done well. It's very complimentary. That fine black line separating color. That's done very nice. Done very nicely done. Okay. Then we have this one's called Sip and Dip. Rob, what do you think?
I'm stuck on the feet.
Stuck on the feet?
Yeah, my eyes go right to the hoofs, and the splash there, and it's like I can't get out of it. It's visually so static that it's just keeping me right there. I mean, it's a very interesting image. Exposure is great. I think the matte is all right, although I don't really like the color of the stroke. I'd do something a little more neutral. But my biggest issue with the image is the cropping. It's just so very tight in here on the horses. So I can't get out of it. My eye doesn't move around. It's a bullseye composition for me. I get sucked right to the center.
Right there.
I can't go anywhere else. Yes.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Cliff?
Great.
No, I think he's absolutely right. It's too bad because there's a lot of potential here. I mean, the reflection is really cool. And the fact that at the top that you're reflecting the grass, at the bottom, you see the mountains, a lot of cool things here. But I have to agree with Rob. It's kind of a bullseye, and he's right. That's exactly where my eye went to, right to that splash.
Yeah, it's kind of the most, I mean, you got this stagnant, this hose is just standing still, but that splash of water creates a lot of movement visually in this image. And then you're right, we go right there. So if the horse was just standing still without any splash, I mean, that's like, try it again and go back and tell the horse to stand still. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that. Again, I think it's a cool piece. I love the color all the way around. Even the composition is kind of cool. That reflected image thing, I always like that kind of thing. And you got, what's cool is you got the green behind the horse and the mountains behind the reflected. That's cool. But yeah, that splash is definitely asking for a lot of attention there, unfortunately. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
As Rick Avalos would say, when you shoot this again.
Right, exactly. Ask the horse to stand still.
Yeah, that's right.
Then we have honoring our ancestors. Cliff, you want to jump in?
Sure. Well, it's interesting to me. This is kind of an I was there picture. I mean, it's nice. It doesn't have a lot of impact for me. It's very colorful. But
wouldn't you look at this as in a photojournalistic
Yeah, it's a photojournal. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably the way. That's probably a better way to look at it.
Yeah, then you're kind of looking for a story in there, maybe then, huh?
Yeah, well, there is a story there for sure, and the color's great. I mean, I'm sorry, it just doesn't do a lot for me. It's kind of okay.
Yeah. Well, that's that impact thing we were talking about earlier. It comes up and oh, that's cool, and then it kind of falls
Yeah.
away. Rob, what's your
And
thoughts
the
on
background is he kind of blends into the background really. I mean, it's out of focus, but it's still kind of busy, and he does kind of blend in. Parts of him kind of blur into the background, into the.
Yeah, this is a tough one shot though, because I don't know how you get around that though. That's the only
Oh, I
problem.
don't know. I don't know either.
Right. A lot of the other characters back here are dressed the same, so you
Right.
lose that and the colors of the people. But I'm glad that the stands and the people, the other dancers are soft focus, so he does stand
Yeah.
up there. Rob, what's your thoughts, and especially the one thing that I'm going to ask you about? The little they have obviously tags on them for their
Yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
yeah. Well, but I
It's-
mean, what for something like this, what do you think about that? Is that a no or
Well, what my concern here is that if this is I'm gonna assume this is a reportage
I think so, yeah.
entry, okay? So we can't do any retouching, but I think this image has been flipped because those are backwards.
Look at the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
On all those tags are flipped. And so I think the maker flipped the image. And so that's a problem because it's obvious that the image is flipped because we've got these letters and numbers that are backwards. But if let's say again that it's a reportage image, you could burn down these people back here and make him stand out a little bit more. But it is a candid capture. It is just a casual, candid capture. And I don't really think it is of competition quality for the capture. It's pretty tight. We're pretty tight up here. We're pretty tight over here. He needs room to go. We need to give him somewhere to go.
Space to move
And
into.
he has none. And I'm not a fan of the neon blue stroke on the edge of the image either.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's been said. I mean, again, the reportage you're kind of stuck with. If you flip it, you can't do anything with this except maybe tone it down. And I think I get the maker was trying to give us that left to right motion that we were more comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know that having it the other way where they're coming back from right to left would be a bad thing. Then still tone this down so it doesn't show up so much, but then it wouldn't be an issue. But as it stands, you're going to lose out because just those two tags being backwards right there, that's going to stop a judge from going much of anywhere with it. So good comments, guys. Thank you. Okay, then we have Senior Smile. Cliff?
Well, first of all, Mom is going to love it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what a beautiful young lady. Great use of depth of field here. I mean, you don't turn the background into mud, so you can see that it's trees and a lake back there. So I think that's perfect. Great expression. Can't tell whether it was natural light or any other light in there, but the nice catch light in her eyes. I love the that dark dress with no bare shoulders. Bare shoulders for senior pictures drives me nuts.
I have to agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. As a competition image, I'm not so sure. I mean, it's a great senior portrait. But I'm interested to hear. I mean, Rob does a lot of senior portraits too, so I'm interested to hear what he has to say. I'm not sure that this would be much of a merit image. It's a good solid 79.6.
Rob, thoughts?
Okay. Well, he's right. I mean, it's a very saleable image. Mom is going to love it. As a competition image, there's a lot of issues here. So that's, as soon as you go down that road, then it opens up a whole new can of worms. First of all, is this image have impact? No. As a competition image, it does not have impact.
No, it doesn't.
I'm sad to say that, but it's true. It just doesn't. It's very nice. It's very pleasant, beautiful smile. We've got distractions all over the place as a competition image. Look at the, we'll start with this right here. Okay, on her bracelet. This thumbnail is really bright. This whole part of her arm is too bright. We have an area here, the cleavage that's drawing you away from the face. You know, we've got weeds coming back up out of the arm, and then it's also kind of cropped sort of tight, in my opinion. I'd like to see a little bit more room around her, or get up closer on her. There's hairs that could be retouched. All these things should be cleaned up in a competition image. And so as is, great saleable portrait. As a competition image, I would move on from it to something else, because I don't think it's got the potential to merit.
But Rob, do you think even if you corrected those things you mentioned, I still don't think it would be a competition image?
No, no,
Okay.
no, I don't. If I gave that impression, I just mean, you know, right away I start seeing all these things, and then even if you fix those, I still don't think it would be
Yeah.
a merit image.
But
Well
she's
said,
beautiful.
guys. No, I agree with all that. It's a beautiful senior portrait, beautiful young lady, but for competition, it's just falling short in a lot of areas that
Yep.
it wouldn't score well. And the other thing too is that sometimes you enter an image in competition and it doesn't score high, it scores average, and you're looking for a way to make it better to score higher. And sometimes it's just time to move on too. You know, it's not going to work. So just next image, please. Kind of.
And if the maker's watching, by the way, I just want to say, I've been there. I mean, there was a point in my career, and I worked really hard. I had a great shoot. I was so proud of the way the exposure turned out. You know, the clients were gaga over the image. I'm like, man, I'm going to enter this. And then it just got chewed up in competition, you know, and you just sometimes that's why this process that we're doing tonight is so helpful, that you can, I didn't have this. So I think it's really helpful.
And I'll just repeat myself from earlier that obviously we're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to, we're just, from my experience over the years, when I was lucky to have my dad help me out, but a lot of his friends would just say these things to me: beautiful portrait, just not for competition. Okay, learn from it, move on. It's not a personal thing. It's not an attack or nothing like that. And I think you guys know that, but it says in my contract, I have to say that a few times. Okay. Let's move on to Man of the Street. Whoops. Cliff?
Well, or she. So we got that texture in the mat. And again, for me, other than being a competition image, I don't find it objectionable. But let's just take a look at the image itself. The image of the man is really outstanding. I'm finding that the background has so much detail and is so sharp, it seems to take away from him.
Yeah.
Because my eye is really going up to that upper left. But it goes up there and there's no real reward, but it's just a lot of detail up there, over there.
Up over in here.
Because that whole area, and above him too. I think.
Well, there's texture everywhere in this thing. Even just behind him is a little more subtle. But look at all this.
Yeah. And I think we have over processed the texture at the expense of the subject. Which is too bad, because looking at his face and holding the cane, that part is wonderful. But I think the background diminishes the image, in my opinion.
Well, Cliff, I'm losing your video or your audio. Rob, are you hearing him okay, or is it?
Yeah, his audio went to a stutter, kind of a in and out.
Yeah, that's been happening to you guys too. I think is it okay now?
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been hearing you guys go to a stutter too. So I think it's our feed. Yeah. So did I make sense? Did you hear enough?
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Rob, to it?
Well, I'm not, I think the maker was going for a concept piece here, and I think they have a concept, and I'm gonna be a little bit of devil's advocate here. I like the feeling from this portrait. I like the texture of it. I agree there's a little too much of it in the background, but I think with some cropping on the bottom, on the left, we can get in there and enjoy him a little bit more. Um, let me draw a box on there.
I can go to the crop tool here if you want me to do
There
that.
did something like this, maybe a little more. Yeah, something like that. Get rid of this bottom part down here. But I think it could be stronger. And then this mat, it's like a mat we saw earlier. The mat has too much texture in it. With all this texture in the image, you don't need texture in the mat. I liked the key line in that on the mat, but I wouldn't go with a textured mat. I might even put a white mat on this image.
Yeah.
Kind of more like a fine art piece.
For a fine art piece, yeah. I can see where some jurors would really love this image, and I'm right middle of the road on it. I really like the posing. I like his expression. I like the thoughtfulness in his eyes and the texture in his beard and all that stuff. And yet I do see some softness in his clothing and in some places as well too. So yeah, it's unique. It's interesting, and I'm very compelled by the actual photograph itself. I
Yeah,
just think
I am too. I think the way
Yeah.
you cropped it there for a bit, Jeff, in my eye, that kind of improved it to get rid of some of, yeah, that pulls it into the old man a lot more.
Yeah, I have to agree.
we're workshopping it here, guys. It's
Good job,
Yeah.
guys. Well, you said it. I don't need to say any more. We got a couple more. I just want to move along. We got 12 minutes left before Rob runs out of
Okay.
time. So
Turn
let's
into
go
a
on and
pumpkin.
do Golden Horizon.
This is the same image we saw before. I mean, almost.
Different maker.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's the same spot, different
Same
image.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah, one knocked the other one down to get to it, I think.
We don't have that hot spot up in the sky.
No, it took rid of the hot spot. Yeah. That's
Well, I'll go. Since we saw one similarly, I'll mention that in my critique here. But I think this one is better
Yeah.
than the other one, and I think it's better for a number of reasons. We've got detail in the highlights. We've got a nice little soft framing here in the foreground. It takes me out into the landscape. But one thing I see here that seems a little incongruent is that this butte or bluff or hill, whatever we want to call it, seems in the clouds seem to be sharper, and the rocks seem to be sharper than this section of trees right here. So I'm confused by that. But I like the matting, could be a little wider. But it's a compelling image. It's got potential. There's some question marks about it though, too.
Well, if you want to add anything else?
no, I don't have anything to add on this one.
Yeah, I think it's been well said. I agree with what Rob's saying. It's the only other thing that it's not really an issue, but this is pretty centralized in this image, and I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but it kind of excuse me, I'm not sure what to do about it, but it does kind of make it a little bit stagnant for me. Because I go to there and I kind of stay there. Not real serious, but I'd love to have seen this guy a little bit more, maybe over here or maybe over there. I mean, yeah, whatever. Don't know what you think about that.
Try some different crops on it.
But I mean, this foreground is beautiful. The light, and I mean, I love the tall grasses here and here, kind of leaning into the scene. These rocks helps just support the base. The clouds are very nicely done. So I mean, I don't know what else you can do to it. It's pretty cool as it is. So well done. Okay, let's see. We have just a couple more here. We have small but mighty. I'll just jump into this one. Again, going back to have to kind of assume, since we don't have categories here, that this would probably be in that photojournalistic reportage category. And I think this one works real well for that. The subject stands out quite a bit from the background. The background is, we can see what it is, repeating themes and patterns and such, so it's nice, but this little guy stands out quite nicely. It's centered, which is fine. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. I think this gal in the back here is kind of giving us a nice support for this back of behind the little guy, so he still has room to go to move through the scene. I think that's okay. Good colors, is crisp and nice. I don't mind the gray mat. Don't know if the red key line is helping. Not terrible, but well, anything else you want to add to that?
I don't. No, I think you
don't.
got it.
Yeah, I don't.
You know, then you got the problem of the tag again. So
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us, what would be the best way to handle this for the reportage category?
well, I mean, you can't remove it.
You can't.
Right.
So
You really can just, all you can do is tone it down, right? Is
burn
that,
it, you could burn it down, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, because you have to submit the original raw file along with that, or at least have it available, right? If somebody asks.
Yeah. I think the whole image is a little bit flat too. It could use a little more saturation, a little more punch or something.
Okay.
You could, I think that's a basic correction that you could make.
Right. Well, I do like that the little guy and his brilliance of colors is brighter than the rest of the background. I mean, you got more muted tones, not just I should say out of focus, soft focus back there. You've got softer colors than here. He's got these bright colors. So I think that helps. He stands out very nicely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I think we just have one more image here. Let me just look through here and whoops, got to get rid of that. Gotta click the button. There we go. So we have, let me just make sure we've gotten everybody's. All that's there. All that's there. Good. We'll look at this one real quick. Life in review.
Wow. I like it. Very nicely done.
Yeah.
Very good exposure. Good storytelling. The posing and the placement of the subject are outstanding here. This nice, strong L composition happening. I like the border. Again, not crazy about the textured mat. That's easy to fix. I don't think you need that. Let this image speak on its own. I love the weathered face, that we can see the eye, we can see the, the concern, or, whatever's going on with this subject in their eyes. You can see emotion in their eyes. And that's going to be a key factor for gaining impact in the overall image. But yeah, this is a really powerful photograph.
Cliff, anything you want to add?
No, I wouldn't add much. Just very powerful image, fixed the mat, and Rob nailed it. It's a really dramatic, wonderful image.
I agree. I think you guys have said it. It's just kind of, I mean, this situation, there's obviously an awful lot of texture and patterns and lines and things that are going on with the scene. Whereas the other, and we're not supposed to compare as judges, but we are in this situation. The old man sitting in there, he was kind of swallowed up more by all that texture, where she stands out more, don't you think, guys? I think it's,
Oh, for sure.
yeah. Okay, very cool.
And in the other one, it was a lot of texture, but that's kind of what it was. Here we can see it's a door. I mean, it has a. You
Yeah,
can tell what
right.
you can tell what it is, as opposed to just stone.
Right. Yeah, good point. All right. Let me just clear the junk here. So that concludes all of our entries for today. Let me just double check that I'm not forgetting somebody, because I don't want to get that email tomorrow. We've got all those, and we've got all those. If for some reason I don't have yours in here and you did submit it, I do apologize. But I think that I counted up and compared it with who sent what, so I think we're cool. So let me get out of stop sharing and go back here. And
you met Rob's timetable by 2 minutes.
I know, that's the thing. I was trying to make sure we didn't lose the man before.
I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate your input. Anybody have questions that we can throw at Rob real quick before he takes off? Get back to, there we go. Anything you want to add? Tips or fun? No. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, bad jokes, as I say? Please let us know. Otherwise, Cliff, thank you so much, sir, for filling in tonight. Appreciate that when Rick's absence. And you did a good job too, which that's what counts. So he's going, yeah, whatever. And Rob, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Everybody, make sure you head over to the Image Critique Show. Look at Rob's page under the our guests header and look at his imagery. Absolutely beautiful stuff. You can read it. He's got a little blurb about him in there, but just go ahead and check that out, and so you can see what he's doing. And so a couple things I want to hit before we go. Rob, if you need to take off, just say so. It's about 3 minutes before the hour, but if you need to go ahead.
If I can, I'm going to, but
Yeah.
hey, this was a blast. Thanks guys for having me. It was my honor to be here. Love to come to a Colorado convention sometime. Hope that we can do that in the future. You guys take care.
I'll tell the right people. Thanks again, Rob. We appreciate
Good luck with those images.
Thanks, Rob. Take care.
Bye, Rob.
Thank you, Rita. I appreciate the comment there. We're doing our best, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of it. So that's cool. So yeah, so just kind of a little bit of a, I won't say clarification, but just a little bit of housekeeping. As I was mentioning before, since we've got some few new people in, the PPC, the Colorado group, we have our state image competition on October 15th, which is different than the convention. The convention is November, first week in November, which is totally different than we've ever done before. So pay attention to that. We are going to have one more of these shows next month before that competition. So the September show will give you another opportunity to try out some images here and get some feedback if you want to prepare them for the Colorado competition. Remember that Rick and I certainly would be glad to help you out with your images for competition. We might have to be a little careful. It doesn't matter for me, but Rick is the jury chairman, which means he might have to judge some of the images. He oversees the panel, but if for some reason a panel can't, one of the members can't judge it, not to get into too many details, Rick has to jump in. If he knows the image, then he can't score it either. I could jump in at that point, but then if I know the image, we're kind of screwed. So Rick would be happy to help, but if he says, oh, I really shouldn't, ask me, ask Cliff. We're happy to give you some feedback on your images to prepare them for competition. And a lot of the things that we talked about through, for some of you first timers, Sherry, thanks. She was her first time joining in. Glad you're, if she's still here. Yep, she's still here. Thank you very much for joining in. If you're thinking of entering some images and getting some, we got cool awards. We got cool things like that at the state competition, and that whole party we're going to have on the 15th of October is going to be absolutely fun. Yep, Gina, you need to get back into the fold of things with your work. Another past president of the association here has joined us tonight, Gina Lance. So thanks, Gina, for joining in. But yeah, things have changed. So anyways, we would love to have you show up for our the image competition. It's a great party. It's all done through a software like this where the images are submitted and they're judged online. Our judges will be at their respective homes around the country. We'll have 5 judges. Rick and Megan Anderson and I and Cliff will be running the show. Rick and Megan and I will be running it from another room. You'll never see us. Cliff will be the host there at the hotel, so he'll have all kinds of great jokes and things for you, juggling acts, all kinds of stuff. Juggling flaming swords. Oh, thank you, Mindy. I'm glad I hope we get to see you again. Remember the imagecritiqueshow.com has lots of information. It has previous videos from other, plus this one will be up soon. So you can watch stuff again and get some help. And our emails are on there. Don't hesitate to ask questions. ppcolorado.com will have very shortly all the information about the image competition I'm talking about and the convention. And we hope you can make that too. That's an in-person thing that will be in the Springs. I forget what hotel, but it's all on the site. So thoughts, comments, questions before we say goodnight? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller. Gang, thank you very much. We're gonna say goodnight now. So feel free to text or holler if you do have questions afterwards. And thanks, John. We appreciate. John, aren't you in California? I think it's cool. He keeps chiming in every month, so that's cool that we're reaching out like that.
No, I'm in Colorado.
But you are in Colorado. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking of another John. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Wrong John. But nevertheless, thanks for coming because you do keep showing up. I appreciate that. So, all right, gang. Thanks for everything. We're saying goodnight. Cliff, anything you want to?
Good night, all.
Good night, all.
Thank you for watching the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson and Rick Avalos. Learn more by checking them out at theimagecritiqueshow.com.